Man, I chose a weird background for this one today, but that's a funky looking alien, isn't it? Hi, I'm Waits and Horror. Welcome back to my neck of the woods. Today we are discussing. What year did this come out? I forgot to write it down. I want to say it was 1997, maybe even. No, that seems about right. The movie Men in Black. Mostly what we're going to be talking about is how this is based on a very unknown underground. I'm going to say unknown comic book that ran from January of 1999 or 1990, I should say, January of 1990 to July of 1991. That was published by Malibu Comics, who was quickly bought up by Marvel Comics to squash the competition, and it was never really heard of again. The movie itself, it starred Will Smith as Agent J, Tommy Lee Jones as Agent K. It was directed by Barry Sonnenfeld, who had just finished directing Addams Family Values. He directed both the live-action Addams Family movies. And the movie itself is a brilliant sci-fi comedy movie. It is so weird and out there, but so humorous and so well put together and well paced. It is one of those classic comedy sci-fi horror movies, and not just a sci-fi comedy or whatever. It's a classic sci-fi and classic comedy at the same time. They're both brilliant. What I wanted to focus on today was the main differences of the comic, because the movie, if you've seen it, and if you haven't, I recommend seeing them because they're so much fun to watch. The main difference with the comics is that where in the movie you are focused on New York, there's just the two agents, J and K, and you see some of the other Men in Black. There's more goofy, seriously. Sometimes Tommy Lee is a really great straight man as far as like deadpan humor goes, deadpan comedy. But the comic is a lot darker. It is more rooted in the paranoia of the Men in Black that spawned in the 50s and 60s, especially after the Mothman incident in Point Pleasant, Virginia. The J and K are still a main part of the comics. So is Zed, who in the movie, played by Rip Torn, and kind of was the guy running all of MIB. He was the boss for everybody. In the comics, Zed is more of a presence, but you never really see him. There's actually another character in the comics that's called X that's never mentioned in the movie. He is replaced by the coroner. Has a bigger thing, but the comic is so much darker. In the comic, the MIB don't just focus on aliens; they focus on other creatures, other paranormal things, vampires, ghosts, zombies, werewolves, cryptids, extraterrestrial aliens, other things. One of the big things with the comic is that in the movie, if you recall, these guys work hard to make people forget they're there. They use certain tools and implements, but they never hurt anybody. They're there to help people, and they're also there to help manage the alien life on Earth to keep them safe as well. But in the comics, they had a more sinister tone, where they want control of the world. They want to mold the world, everything, not just in America, but the entire world, to their liking. They want to make the world run as they saw fit. So to do that, they would manipulate, they would kill, they policed and monitored everything. And it's just a stark difference because the movie is so family friendly, it offers so much for a wide audience. It's kind of like Jurassic Park in that way, where if you watch the Spielberg movie of Jurassic Park, it is, there's tension there, there's tense moments, but it's not nearly as gruesome and gory and dark as the book is. The book itself is a horror novel. It's a horror novel with actual science used to bring the horror to life. And while The Men in Black is not so much so science based, but the comic is darker. It's more. It's not so much satire as it is a very grim, haunting experience to read it. It is, the characters are not as likable. They do horrendous things to achieve their goals, and I think it shows how sometimes a straight comic adaptation, or just a straight adaptation of something like that, isn't always the best way to go, because you want to get your product out to a wider audience. Sometimes you got to change things up. And with Barry Sonnenfeld, okay, one thing he did that was really, really brilliant was the studio was really pushing for Chris O'Donnell to rejoin Tommy Lee Jones. They both just stopped, kind of got big off of Batman Forever. And the studio wanted to recreate that, but Barry Sonnenfeld was convinced Will Smith was the guy to be the lead as Agent J. So in an interview between Sonnenfeld and O'Donnell, to kind of like prep O'Donnell for the role, Sonnenfeld tricked O'Donnell and was saying like he didn't feel like he was a really good director. He didn't really feel like this movie was going to be big, and Chris is a burgeoning, on the verge of big major stardom, and he didn't want to hurt Chris's chances. So he basically convinced Chris O'Donnell to drop out of the role so that he can cast Will Smith, which was fucking just awesome, entertaining as hell, and really, really smart on Sonnenfeld's part. But just the fact that they took this really dark, uber serious comic and turned it into a Spielberg-esque fantasy sci-fi comedy movie it is one of the best movies to come out of that era. It's one of Sonnenfeld's best works, and how different the movie is from the comic it just blows my mind. Alright, thank you for visiting my neck of the woods. Please be safe out there, continue to be punk rock, and I'll catch you later.